She blinked. Once. Twice. The glow from her phone screen hit her face like a punch. She sat up in the bed. My side cold, empty, untouched. And her thumb hovered over the screen like she didn't want to see what she already knew was there. She read the words I left her. Froze. Like a movie glitching mid-frame. I know that because I was watching from the driveway. I hadn't left yet. Just stood behind the wheel of my truck. Engine off. Eyes fixed on our bedroom window like a man staring at the wreck he'd just caused. Or survived. Not sure which yet. Let's rewind. 2 hours earlier, I was lying next to her while she was dreaming God knows what about the man she thinks I don't know about. The guy she thinks she's so clever hiding. She was wearing one of those cheap little t-shirts she always just threw on. The kind that clung to her a little too right when she was feeling herself. Except that night, it reeked of something that didn't belong to our house. Something musky and slick and not mine. You know that moment when your brain suddenly clicks into focus, like a blurry picture snapping clear? That happened at 2:12 a.m., staring at her back. I saw the outline of her phone on the nightstand. Unlocked. Notification still glowing. It wasn't even hidden. He sent her a picture. From his car. Shirtless. Still thinking about you. Couldn't sleep. She replied while I was brushing my teeth. Me too. Last night was. She didn't finish the sentence. But she didn't need to. The 3 dots popped up below it. And then disappeared. I didn't need to scroll. I'd seen enough. I stood there in the dark, toothbrush still in my mouth. Heart slamming so hard in my chest I swear I thought she'd wake up from the sound of it. I rinsed my mouth. I sat on the edge of the tub. I stared at the floor for 10, maybe 15 minutes. Didn't cry. Didn't yell. I just stopped being the version of me that existed yesterday. It's like a switch flipped. I went downstairs. Opened the Notes app on her phone. Typed what I needed to. Saved it to the lock screen so it'd be the first thing she saw when she reached for her little device full of secrets. I turned off the lights. Walked out. No bag. No goodbye. Just silence. Tomorrow she'll probably start the spin. It was emotional, not physical. It didn't mean anything. You've been distant. It just happened. But tonight she has to sit with that screen burning into her skull. She doesn't know where I am. She doesn't know how much I know. And that's going to terrify her. But she should be terrified. Because the truth is only just starting to crawl out. Wait till I tell you about what happened last Thursday. That's when everything fell apart. Last Thursday started like any other. I kissed Madison on the cheek as she sat at the kitchen counter, pretending to scroll Pinterest while she sipped her oversweetened coffee. She barely looked up, just mumbled something about meeting her work girls for a late dinner. Said she'd probably Uber home. I nodded, played along. I was already past asking questions by then. I'd learned how easy she lied when she had something to hide. It wasn't the first time. But it was the first time I followed her. I waited 2 hours after she left. Gave her time to get comfortable wherever she thought she was safe. Then I drove. Didn't even need a GPS, her phone had synced with mine years ago. And she never bothered to remove it. She must have forgotten that her location still pinged through my car's dashboard. She wasn't at the restaurant she told me about. Wasn't even in the same part of town. My stomach sank when I pulled up to the Westgate Inn. Cheap place. No frills, hourly rate vibes. You know the kind. Neon sign flickering like it had given up years ago. Her car was parked in the back, near the dumpsters. Real discreet. That's when I knew. No more doubt. No more trying to believe the excuses she fed me like scraps. I parked across the street. Sat in the truck. hands trembling on the steering wheel, breathing like I'd run a marathon. I felt like a stranger in my own skin, like my body didn't know whether to punch the dashboard or fall apart in the seat. I waited 47 minutes, long enough to watch her walk out. She was laughing. With him. Tall. Dark jacket. Athletic build. Probably early 30s. Confident. Too confident. Like he knew he was walking out of that room with something he had no business touching. Madison tossed her hair like she was 22 again. Like she didn't have a husband who'd just spent his Thursday night watching her destroy their marriage in real time. She kissed him before they got into their cars. Couldn't breathe. I drove home in silence. The radio was off, windows down, trying to drown the nausea crawling up my throat. Every red light felt like a personal insult. Every second that passed made it harder not to scream. But I didn't. I went home, got into bed next to her when she came in at 1:37 a.m. Pretending to be drunk, giggling, reeking of guilt and aftershave. I didn't say a word. I just waited. Because now I had everything. And I wanted her to walk right into it. I wanted her to step into that trap with her bare feet and her smug little grin. She had no idea I was watching. No idea what I was about to do. Next part? The confrontation. She didn't see that coming. She came home humming. That's what really stuck with me. Not the lipstick smudged past her lip line. Not the hurried way she kicked off her heels in the hallway. Not even the way she tossed her purse on the couch like she just wrapped up a spa day, not a backseat quickie with some grinning nobody from God knows where. No. It was the humming. Like she was glowing inside. She didn't notice me sitting in the dark. I was in the recliner, no lights on. Just the low hum of the fridge and the ticking of the cheap clock above the pantry. The house felt hollow. I could hear everything, her keys clink, the faucet running, the little zip of her makeup bag opening in the bathroom. She finally stepped into the living room, and when her eyes met mine, she stopped mid-step. "Oh," she said. Like I was an inconvenience. Like I had interrupted her night. I didn't speak. I didn't move. She laughed. "Babe, you scared me. Why are you just sitting there?" I let the silence hang. Let her squirm. Her smile faltered just a little. "Everything okay?" she added, voice high and cautious. I nodded toward her purse on the couch. "Why don't you go ahead and open that for me?" She blinked. "What?" "Your purse. Open it." She tried to act confused. "Why? What are you talking about?" "Open the damn purse, Madison." There was a pause. A fraction of a second where her whole face shifted. Just like that. Fake innocence gone. Replaced with this stiff, almost bored mask. She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "Are we really doing this right now?" she said. "God, you're being so dramatic." Dramatic. I stood up slowly. Walked over. Didn't touch her. Just stood a foot away, voice low. "I followed you tonight." Silence. "I saw you with him. I saw where you went. I watched you walk out of that motel like you hadn't just lit our whole marriage on fire." She opened her mouth, closed it. Then she tried to scoff, but it was weak. "You're spying on me now," she said, going for righteous indignation. "That's what this is?" "No," I said, almost laughing. "This is me finally waking up." Then she smiled. I swear to God, she had the audacity to smile like I was some fool just catching up to the joke. She sat down, crossed one leg over the other, and said, "So what? What are you gonna do? Divorce me? Go ahead. Have fun explaining to your family why your wife finally got bored of playing house." That hit me harder than anything. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. It was the contempt in her voice. Like I was beneath her. Like she was tired of pretending I mattered. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. I just stared at her, heart numb. "You're not even sorry," I whispered. She shrugged. "Why would I be? You haven't looked at me like a woman in years, Josh. All you do is work, sit in front of the TV, and pretend like that's enough." I nodded. Quietly. Took one last look at her. The woman I gave my 20s to. The woman who once cried because I left a flower on her car seat. The woman who now sat there blaming me for her crawling into someone else's bed. "You'll regret this," I said. She snorted. "No, babe. I really won't." I walked upstairs, grabbed the duffel I'd already packed, took one last look at the photos on the wall, us at the lake, us at Christmas, us pretending. Then I left. That was 3 days ago. She hasn't called. Not once. She hasn't called. Not once. No texts. No, "Where are you?" No fake apologies. No drunken late-night voicemail trying to spin it all back into my fault. Nothing. That silence, it's louder than anything she could have said. And it's not peaceful. It's the kind that keeps your stomach twisted up like barbed wire, makes your hands shake when you try to drink coffee, and leaves your brain playing every scene over and over with nowhere to land. I slept in my truck the first night. Just couldn't bring myself to walk into anyone's house and explain what happened. I sat in the Walmart parking lot, window cracked, hoodie pulled over my face, listening to the wind rattling through the cracked vents. I must have looked homeless. Maybe I was, in a way. The next morning, I went to my brother's. He opened the door, took one look at me, and said, "What the hell happened?" I couldn't even speak at first. I just held out the phone. The screenshot was still open, her conversation with the guy. She called him babe. Said she wished she could wake up next to him every morning. Told him she didn't know how much longer she could pretend. Pretend. That word lit me up all over again. My brother read it, looked up, and said, "You want me to break his nose or hers?" I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I asked for a shower and some real coffee. He didn't ask questions. Just nodded. Said, "Stay as long as you need." The thing is, when something like this happens, you expect to feel pure rage. Like fury will carry you through. But it doesn't. Not really. Not after day one. After that, it's just quiet. Empty. Like someone walked through your chest with muddy boots and took every picture off the wall. I sat on his couch for hours, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Madison and I at the beach. Her holding our dog, Toby, wearing my hoodie, smiling like I was the only man in her world. I found one from our 3rd anniversary, her in that red dress, laughing at something I said, holding my hand like she never wanted to let it go. And I kept asking myself, was any of that even real? Or was she always just waiting to be someone else's? It's like trying to mourn someone who isn't dead but is never coming back. The body's there, but the soul, the person I married, is long gone. Replaced by this cold stranger who wears her face, speaks with her voice, but looks through me like I'm invisible. People keep asking me what I'm going to do next. Am I filing for divorce? Am I going to confront him? Am I going to burn her stuff or block her or give her a second chance? I don't know yet. I don't know what I am without her. But I do know this. I can't go back. The way she looked at me that night? Like I was small. Like I deserved it. There's no coming back from that. And yet, part of me still wants to hear her say why. Why him? Why now? Why destroy everything? You want to know who he is? Because I found out. And that changed everything. I wasn't looking for him. Not really. I just wanted to forget his face. Pretend he didn't exist outside of that motel parking lot, outside of her lips, outside of the message thread I now had burned into my mind like scars on skin. But the universe or fate or whatever cruel thing pulls the strings had other plans. It was Sunday afternoon. I'd finally worked up the nerve to stop by the house and grab a few things while Madison was at her yoga class. Yes, she still kept that routine going like our life wasn't in pieces. Like stretching into downward dog somehow balanced the fact she tore a hole through her vows. I parked a block down. Quiet. No need to leave tire marks or announce I was there. Just wanted to get in, get my laptop, a few clothes, my grandfather's watch, and Toby's leash. She hadn't even asked about the dog. He'd been with me the whole time, and she hadn't called once to see how he was doing. I should have known. As I turned the corner to head up the driveway, a car was parked out front. Sleek. Expensive. Silver. The same damn car I'd seen leaving the motel. He was standing there. On my porch. Leaning casually against the post like he belonged there. Like he had every right to exist in the frame of my house in the oxygen that used to belong to us. He didn't see me at first. Madison opened the door early from yoga and stepped out like she'd been waiting for him. She laughed, touched his arm, then kissed him. Not a shy, guilty peck. No. She leaned in, like she'd done it 100 times before, like they'd forgotten I even existed. I didn't move, just froze behind my truck, heart hammering so hard I swear I thought it'd echo off the hood. They didn't see me. They were too busy smiling, too caught up in whatever fantasy they were living. He said something. I couldn't hear it. She laughed again and then they both went inside. Together. The front door closed. And in that moment I realized something that made my entire body go cold. She didn't care if I saw. In fact, she wanted me to. That's when I looked up the plates. His car. Just needed to know who he was. One call to a buddy of mine who still works at DMV and boom, 10 minutes later, I had a name. Brandon Keller. It meant nothing at first. Just a name. No face in my memory to match it to. Until I went digging. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and there he was, smiling in a suit, regional sales director at a logistics company downtown. Also, married, with a daughter, 4 years old. And Madison? She liked his photos. Months back, even commented on one of them, beautiful family. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. This was a full-blown affair. Planned. Rehearsed. Hidden in plain sight. She'd been building this for months. She wasn't sorry because she'd already made the jump. She chose him. Now I had a decision. Do I call his wife? Do I blow it all up? Because part of me still wanted revenge. But the other part? The part that still pictured her in that red dress? It just wanted peace. Problem is, peace doesn't come easy when the person you loved most is sleeping in your house with someone else's husband. And smiling about it. Next part? I made the call. And it was the single most powerful moment of this entire disaster. Her name is Danielle Keller. I found her through his Facebook. His relationship status still proudly said married, profile picture with her and the kid standing in front of a pumpkin patch like something out of a holiday card. I stared at that picture for a long time. Not because I was doubting myself, but because I was about to change her life. The way mine had just been gutted. I sat in the truck for nearly an hour with my thumb hovering over the message button. I must have rewritten what I wanted to say 50 times. My chest felt like a war zone. Anger and guilt were fighting over the same patch of burned-out earth. But then I thought about how she probably kissed Brandon goodbye that morning. How she probably packed their daughter's lunchbox, brushed her little curls, sent him off to work thinking she had a husband she could trust. Just like I used to. And I pressed send. Hi Danielle. I don't know you and I wish I didn't have to send this. But I think your husband Brandon is having an affair. With my wife. Her name is Madison. I have screenshots. I saw them together. I know this is going to hurt, but you deserve to know. I'm sorry. I didn't expect an instant reply. But I got one. 5 minutes later, a short message came back. Call me. Now. Attached was a phone number. My hands were shaking when I dialed. I didn't even get through the first ring. She picked up. Who are you? Her voice was sharp. Not panicked. Not even emotional yet. Just sharp. Like a scalpel. I'm Josh, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. My wife is Madison. She and your husband have been. I couldn't finish. Danielle did it for me. Sleeping together. She didn't sound surprised. Not really. Just cold. Like she'd already been suspecting something and was waiting for someone to say it out loud. I've known, she said. Not everything. But I've felt it for months. He always had an excuse. Always some meeting or networking thing that ran late. He stopped touching me. Started guarding his phone like it was made of gold. There was a pause. You said her name's Madison? Yes. She sighed. She sent me a birthday message last month. Told me I was glowing in our photos. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't know what to say. Neither of us did. Finally, I said I saw them. At a motel. They didn't even try to hide it. And then finally, her voice cracked. She whispered he told me I was crazy. Made me feel like I was losing my mind. My throat tightened. Same here. We were quiet again. Two strangers on opposite ends of a phone call connected by betrayal. Danielle asked me to send the screenshots. I did. Every one. The messages. The hotel receipt Madison left in her coat pocket. A picture I snapped of them in the parking lot. She didn't reply after that. Not that day. But 2 mornings later, I got a message. Thank you for telling me. I kicked him out. You did the right thing. And with that, one half of this twisted double life came crashing down. But not mine. Madison still hadn't called. Still hadn't said a word. Until that night, when she showed up. At my brother's house. Uninvited. Banging on the door like she still had rights to the wreckage. And I opened it. And the moment I saw her face, I knew it was going to get uglier than anything I'd imagined. It was 10:42 p.m. My brother and his wife had gone to bed. The house was dark except for the flicker of the TV playing some late-night show I wasn't watching. Toby was curled up at my feet, head lifting every now and then when I shifted or sighed too loud. Then came the banging. 3 hard knocks followed by the doorbell, fast, like whoever was out there didn't care who they woke up. I knew before I even stood up. Call it instinct. Or maybe you just feel it when a storm is waiting on the other side of a door. I opened it and there she was. Madison. Hair a mess, makeup half-worn and uneven like she'd wiped her face mid-breakdown. She wasn't dressed for drama, just a hoodie, leggings, and that same old pair of sneakers she always wore to run errands. But her eyes? Her eyes looked like fire and venom all rolled into one. You told his wife, she hissed, stepping forward like she belonged in the house. I blocked the doorway. Hello to you too, I said calmly. It's nice to see you're still alive. Don't play games, Josh, she snapped. You had no right to do that. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. No right? You're standing on my brother's porch in the middle of the night after blowing up our marriage like a 4th of July fireworks show and you want to talk about rights. She didn't flinch. Of course she didn't. Madison always had a gift for flipping the narrative before the truth could even breathe. She didn't come here to apologize. She came to regain control. Do you have any idea what you've done? She said, voice climbing. Brandon's life is destroyed. He lost everything. He destroyed his own life. I snapped. And so did you. She stared at me, breathing hard. I half expected her to break down. Say she was sorry, that she'd messed up, that she'd made a mistake. But no. She crossed her arms. Oh, please, don't act like this marriage was perfect. Don't stand there pretending you were some kind of saint. You think being quiet and predictable makes you husband of the year. I blinked. So this is my fault now? I was bored, Josh, she yelled. You stopped trying. You stopped seeing me. I felt like I was dying in that house. And your answer to that, I said slowly, was to sneak around with a married man and lie to my face for months? She didn't say anything. The silence pressed in. I lowered my voice. You could have left. You could have told me. You could have said, Josh, I'm not happy. And we would have figured it out like adults. But I didn't want to leave, she said bitterly. I wanted more. And you were just there. Comfortable. Safe. I stared at her. And in that moment, I realized something bone deep and brutal. She didn't love me anymore. She hadn't for a long time. She'd just been staying for the benefits. The house. The loyalty. The image. I didn't say anything else. I stepped back and started to close the door. That's when she dropped her last grenade. I'm keeping the house. I stopped. Looked at her like she'd grown horns. Excuse me? It's in both our names. You left. You don't get to walk away and take everything. I opened the door again, slowly, calmly, like I was opening a cage and letting the beast back in just to study it one last time. You really think, I said, after everything you've done, you're going to keep my house? Her eyes narrowed. You're going to make this ugly, aren't you? No, Madison, I said. You already did. And then I closed the door, locked it, walked away, and in the silence that followed, I realized something deep, dark, and liberating. I wasn't afraid of her anymore. I was just done. Next, I called a lawyer, and what he told me, Madison was in for a rude awakening. I met with the lawyer on a Tuesday. His office was downtown, a stuffy little place above a deli that smelled like burnt pastrami and too much mustard. I didn't care. I would have met him in a janitor's closet if he could help me get free from Madison's claws. His name was Ted, mid-50s, wore a tie that looked like it hadn't been loosened since 1998. He didn't smile, didn't make small talk, just looked at the folder I handed him, flipped through the screenshots, the receipts, the texts. Your wife's a piece of work, he said flatly. I nodded. And you've got proof. A lot of it. I nodded again. He looked up at me over his reading glasses. You want the house? I want her out of it. You want alimony? No. I want her gone. Clean break. He tapped the folder with the back of his pen. Then we'll go for fault-based divorce. Adultery. We're in a state that still cares about that, lucky for you. Judges don't like cheaters, especially when they're dumb enough to do it with a married man and leave a paper trail. The weight in my chest lifted just a little. And the house. Depending on how it's structured, you might be able to keep it, especially if she moved out voluntarily or if you can prove her actions damaged the marriage beyond repair. Courts tend to favor the one who isn't sleeping around. He leaned back, hands folded. But I'll tell you right now, Josh, you're going to hear from her soon. Not just about the house, about everything. People like your wife, they don't lose quietly. He was right. 2 days later, she texted me. We need to talk. In person. I'm not doing this over lawyers. I didn't answer. She called. I didn't pick up. Then came the voicemail, dripping with that fake softness she used to get what she wanted. Hey, I just think we need to be civil. Don't you? I mean, we shared a life, Josh. Can't we be adults about this? I wanted to laugh. Adults? After everything? Then she sent another message. You're being cruel. I didn't mean to hurt you. Things just happened. Please don't let this get messy. That's when I finally replied. You're not sorry. You're just mad you're not in control anymore. Silence after that, until she showed up again, at the house, with a suitcase, said she was moving back in. I didn't even open the door, just stood behind it and told her I had legal grounds now, that the lawyer was filing that week, that every message, every receipt, every photo was documented. She screamed through the door, said I was ruining her life, said I ambushed her, said Brandon left her. That last part? That one almost made me smile. So the side guy bailed the second his world burned down. How poetic. Madison was standing there with no backup plan, no support system, and no one to spin her lies to. She was alone. And people like her? They don't know how to live without someone to use. I called the cops. She left before they arrived. That was the last time I saw her in person. But the war wasn't over yet, because then came the letters. From her lawyer. And the one she sent me directly? It wasn't begging anymore. It was threatening. And it was ugly. The letter came in a plain white envelope. No return address, just my name scrawled on the front in her handwriting. Not even a stamp. She had dropped it off at my brother's house herself, according to his Ring camera. She didn't knock, didn't even linger. Just walked up, shoved it into the mailbox, and left like a ghost who still believed she had the right to haunt the place. Inside, 2 pages. The first was from her lawyer. The usual bluff and bluster language, so padded and official it practically rolled its eyes at me between the lines. Per our client's request. She is entitled to it. Your actions have resulted in emotional distress. The nerve. But the second page, that one was all Madison. Handwritten. Sloppy. Rushed. Like she wrote it in the front seat of her car, heart racing, ego cracked open and spilling all over the page. Josh? I never thought we'd end up like this. I know you're hurt. I know I messed up. But this doesn't have to be war. You left. You made your choice. Don't act like I'm the villain when you abandoned our marriage without trying to fix it. I stopped reading right there. Abandoned? I sat through months of her lies. I watched her come home smelling like cologne and cheap soap. I kissed her while she stared past me and thought about another man. I broke trying to keep that marriage together. She didn't get to call that abandonment. But I kept reading. You've always been good at making yourself look like the victim. But you don't see what it was like for me being invisible. Feeling stuck. Watching the spark go out and knowing you wouldn't notice unless someone else lit it again. So there it was. The spark excuse. The classic fallback. Like adultery was some kind of mystical fix for boredom. I never wanted to hurt you. But I'm not going to let you punish me for finding happiness just because you didn't see me anymore. I'm going to fight for the house. I deserve a fresh start. And if you think you can make this ugly and still come out clean, think again. No apology. No remorse. Just veiled threats and blame. I handed the letter to my lawyer the next day. He skimmed it, gave a dry little chuckle, and tossed it onto the pile. She's panicking, he said. Let her. Then he slid over a document and said, sign this. We're filing tomorrow. It felt like signing the end of a chapter. No, scratch that, a whole damn book. One I'd been reading for too long, hoping the ending would change. But it wouldn't. Because Madison didn't want a better ending. She wanted a different audience. And now? Now she had to stand alone. No Brandon. No marriage. No mask. Just her, staring into the mess she made. And for once, I wasn't there to clean it up. But the last part? That's the part one didn't expect. Because just when I thought it was over, she tried one last move. And it was the dirtiest one yet. I should have seen it coming. Madison doesn't lose. Not gracefully. Not quietly. Not when she's backed into a corner with no more lies left to lean on. And definitely not when the world she built on manipulation, vanity, and whatever version of the truth suited her starts to crack beneath her heels. She didn't call. Didn't text. She posted. Publicly. It started with a long, carefully written Facebook post that made it look like she was the one putting the pieces of her life back together after being blindsided by betrayal. The caption was a masterclass in self-victimization. She didn't name me directly, but anyone with half a brain could connect the dots. Sometimes the person you think you know turns out to be the one who hurt you the most. I gave everything to my marriage. I sacrificed. I stayed when I should have left. And now I'm being punished for finally choosing happiness. Please respect my privacy while I go through this incredibly painful and unfair process. She even turned off the comments. No room for questions. No room for truth. A few hours later, her friends started messaging me. Some were confused. Some were angry. One even had the gall to say, you didn't deserve her anyway. She glowed more when Brandon was in her life. I didn't reply to any of them. Let them live in their fiction. But then she crossed the line. She showed up to my job. Walked into the front office of the warehouse like she still had the right to be anywhere near my life. Asked to speak to me privately as if we were still a couple, as if we had anything left to discuss that didn't go through lawyers now. Security called me. I walked out front, saw her standing there like nothing had changed. Dressed up. Fresh makeup. Playing the composed ex-wife role like she was auditioning for sympathy. I kept my hands in my pockets and didn't let her say more than 5 words before I cut in. You step foot here again, I'll file a restraining order. Her face didn't even twitch. She just stared at me for a long moment, eyes unreadable, like she was trying to figure out if I meant it. I did. She turned and walked out without another word. 2 weeks later, the court date was set. She didn't show. Her lawyer did, but it didn't matter. The evidence was airtight. The judge didn't need much time. I got the house. No spousal support. She was ordered to remove her belongings within 10 days under supervision. I watched her come and go one final time. No words were exchanged. She didn't even look at me. Just kept her head down like the shame finally caught up with her. And when the door clicked shut behind her for the last time, it didn't echo. It didn't ache. It was just done. Yeah? The silence feels different. Not heavy. Not hollow. Just free. I sleep through the night. Toby curls up beside me, no more pacing near the front door, no more watching for shadows that don't belong. The house is quiet. Mine again. And if there's one thing I've learned from this, it's that loyalty means nothing to someone who only sees you as an accessory to their happiness. You can love them, fight for them, give them the softest parts of yourself, and they'll still walk out the door without blinking if it benefits their ego. So here's my advice. If the gut ever whispers that something feels wrong, listen. And if they ever make you feel small for asking questions, run. Because love doesn't require you to disappear just to keep them comfortable. That was the final lesson Madison taught me, and I won't ever forget it.